All right, guys.
Hey, Bill, there's been so much made about energy with this team, and I think sometimes we just throw that out there as just a thought, a concept. Can you explain with this team specifically what starting with energy looks like, what it means, what it includes?
Well, I think every team we've had, you know, the teams that play with the most energy always play the fastest and play more athletic and things like that. I would, to me is, feet and hand activity, always bluffing the ball, always digging at the ball, first two steps in transition. There's a lot of things I think that go into it. And certainly when you don't do that, which very rarely do you do it all the time. I mean, nobody does it all the time, but when you don't do that, things get exposed that you can cover up for. You can cover up mistakes from a technical standpoint with great energy or great athleticism or whatever, but when you don't have that, then the tactical things become more prevalent and more obvious. And certainly we're no different than almost all teams in the country, but that certainly seems to be very apparent with this team, in large part because we've got a team full of good athletes, but I don't consider us a team full of guys that when the guy you're playing across against, you know that you're a superior quick twitch athlete. We got really good athletes that need to be turned up to become great athletes, and when we do that, we're pretty effective.
And when they don't have it, anybody, but these guys specifically, what's the challenge of trying to get them to flip that switch? I mean, is that easier said than done?
Well, yeah, if you don't have it to start, you're usually not going to get it back. I mean, it's everything's about momentum in sports, and when you start out with it, you obviously want to prolong it as much as you can, and when you don't, it's a lot harder than what maybe people realize to start something or turn something on when it wasn't prepared to turn on anyway, because a lot of it's preparation. Time of day could play a role. There's a lot of things that could play a role in it, and those are excuses in my mind, but certainly we can say what we want to. When we're turned up, we're pretty good defensively, and when we're not, we get real average.
And with Saturday, what's the biggest key with Grant guarding him?
I think what you may have just hit it on the head. Energy. We didn't do a good job on him the first time, and he scored 3 points from behind the arc, and he still gets 25. So he's a guy that can go get his own, and he got his shoulders past us. He elevated over us. There's a lot of things that he did really well in the first game that we got to be much better at this game.
Does the Alabama game prove in itself what OU can do, and have you watched tape of that game to see how they blew them out?
Yeah, we watched all the tapes, and certainly they were impressive in that game. And I'll be honest, I thought they were impressive last night. I thought they played well against Baylor and had opportunities, in that 3 to 5 point range late to make one play to really put a lot of game pressure on it, and a breakaway layup turns into a layup for Baylor or something like that. So they were in position to be there, and so I thought they were really pretty good last night. And of course, I think Baylor's really good, and especially away from home. But OU's a lot like us. When they play well, they're really well good, but when they don't, they've had their rough moments, and certainly that's been kind of like us. You look at our shortcomings this year. It's usually because of we haven't lived up to the level of play in games when we actually have won, and that usually happens across America. But I would say there's usually a pinpoint reason on why that's happened, and I don't coach OU, but I'm sure they've had those pinpoint reasons too. But their personnel's good, and they've gotten more athletic because they're playing a couple of guys now that didn't play near as much when we played them the first time.
Do you think they're a tournament team?
think our league right now has a solid 8 in, and I believe that OU is still in the game for sure to be a tournament team. They're good enough to be in the tournament. There's no doubt about that. But they're probably going to have to do some things to give the committee a reason besides Alabama to say, you know, they're good enough to beat Alabama by 30, have them down 33 or whatever, and they're ranked number 2 in the country. They're definitely one of the best teams to get into the tournament. They should get in the tournament if you just based on potential and quality of team. But still, though, our league is so good that when you look at league records, even though you could have maybe a top 30 net team such as West Virginia, and I don't know what West Virginia is in the league now. Does anybody know? They 4-6?
Mm-hmm.
4-6, and right now they would be a lock to be in the tournament at 4-6, a lock, and they should be. They're 20 in the net. Oklahoma's not quite as high in the net, so they're going to have to do something to show the committee that they're one of those better at-large teams, not only by net but also by record. But they have plenty of opportunities to do so. They're capable, absolutely.
Could you update Bobby, Zach, Cam, etc.?
I really don't have much of an update. I think we're all better. Cam won't be available. Kyle obviously won't be available. The other 3, I'll probably know more after today's practice, but from what I've been told, there was a chance that maybe Zuby could be worked in some today, but I haven't heard that yet. And this is what I heard this morning, but we'll wait and see how practice goes.
Zach.
I would think it's still day to day. So and Bobby as well too. I don't anticipate those guys, but I could be wrong.
Coach Townsend mentioned the other day that after Iowa State, you had the team meet instead of letting them go as you usually do. Was that just because the game that you haul at next was so close, or did you really need to address some things immediately?
Well, there's things that are non-basketball specific. I didn't meet with our team about technical things that happened in Ames. You know, I told you guys I didn't watch the tape, so I met with them more about team things, culture type things, and so. But yeah, we've done a lot of meeting. You know, I had a coaching buddy of mine say teams that aren't as good meet, teams that are good practice, and we were at a phase where we probably needed to talk some things out. So there is, without question, there's no hesitation on what expectations are and what everyone's role is based on where they are at with this particular team at this time. So yeah, but it wasn't about X's and O's though.
For a lot of reasons, fans are abuzz about MJ and Ernest. Can you just talk about what you see in practice and what kind of impact can they be on this team moving forward?
Well, I think they both can be. You know, I think Ernest had several good days in a row, and then maybe took a little bit step backwards at Ames, but he's had several good games. And I'll be honest with MJ, that's the first time he's looked like he was moving and playing with a presence in a long time. So I'm excited that if that thing can keep moving in a positive direction, you know, that could certainly make our team much deeper, but also much better. But I'm hopeful for that. It doesn't have anything to do with points and rebounds. It's just the presence and the mindset and the body language just seem to be the best it's been with MJ in a long time. And you know, I'm thinking so much of that is health related.
Coach, we had Kevin in here a minute ago. Could you discuss the challenges that he faced coming in?
You know, the third isn't going to be a freshman. The third isn't going to be KJ. So, you know, he was automatically put into that situation because of his experience and success he's had, obviously, at Tech. So I don't think it's been hard for him in that role. It may have been harder for him in a role that's different than maybe the role that he had as a player. at Tech. But I've actually thought he's transitioned really well into being a leader, and certainly I look forward to him even being more of one as we finish this, because he has as good an understanding about what we're trying to do as anybody out there.
Anything else? Gary?
88 points, Jalen only has 2, what does that mean?
Well, I would have never thought that we would score 88 points against Texas, and a guy averaging 22 gets 2. So I think it's a bright sign. I do. I think it's positive that other guys stepped up. We need Jalen, obviously, to play like Jalen's capable of. And here we look at this, and it's the first single-figure game he's had all year long.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, he's been beyond consistent. He's been great, but it was nice to see, and for somebody to pick him up on 1 out of 24 days, he wasn't great, which is a pretty ridiculously consistent staff out of. Well, what's been his low game other than 2?
11.
He had 11 one game, so we could say maybe below average on that, but for the most part, he's done everything we need him to do to give us the best chance. And so I think it was good for him to see also that maybe he doesn't have to carry the load all the time.
Somebody was saying Devontae got traded, did you talk to him? And
Haven't, but he's a Spur now.
What do you think of the whole situation?
I do not know anything about it, but I know that they got 4 second-round picks, Devontae, and they gave up Josh Richardson. So I know that. So that's all I know. But I obviously, I don't know the situation with the Spurs inside and out by any stretch, but I gotta believe it's a good situation for him to be able to go somewhere and play, because I'm sure he'll get an opportunity, because there with the Pelicans, things have got a situation where he wasn't playing quite as much. So I'm happy for him.
Given the state of this league and how you guys have talked about it all year, how tough it is, I'd imagine we know the answer to this, but is there any concern after playing top 15 team after top 15 team over and over and over like this about going to an unranked team for a couple of games like this? Is that even on the radar at all?
You know what? I hadn't even thought about that.
Sure.
So I hadn't even thought about it. Maybe the guys think about. I can't believe they do. We beat OU as bad as we possibly could the first time we played them, and we're down 10 with 4.5 minutes left. So I mean that's and we luck out to win basically by a possession. Same thing happened against Oklahoma State. So I don't look at it that way. I know that I know obviously they're very capable. When they're good, they're as good as anybody in our league. That's been proven. So I don't look at it that way. I thought the question would be, Matt, is there any concern that over a course of 2 months that this could wear you down to the point where maybe your team wouldn't be as physically ready or mentally ready come tournament time?
That was next.
That was your next question. Yeah, but God, it's a bright question. I can't. But I think there would be concern with that for everybody. I think there's a balance that when you go into postseason play, there's a balance of playing your best, but there's also a balance of being healthy and being batteries recharged and highest energy level, highest focus, concentration type level that give you the best chance. And when you put so much emphasis on every game and every day over a course of 2.5 months or whatever, it becomes quite tiresome. So, just to be real candid with you, I think it's a fine line you walk, being what you want to be at the most important time and not overdoing it now to the point where it could take away from that. Baylor won the national championship in what was it, 21? And it was a COVID year, is all screwed up. They also got 2 weeks off during February. And even though it was a bad 2 weeks because it was COVID, it was still a time where they came back against us. I don't know if you guys remember, we went by 30 or 25 because they were just coming back from COVID. They weren't a team yet and everything, but there was a time for them to regroup. Last year when we won it, you guys remember, we weren't very good. We were winning games, but hey, we lose at Baylor, we lose at TCU, we labor at home. We didn't, you know, our record was good, but we didn't kick it in and become a really good team until after the regular season was over. Because it's hard to sustain being really good if your talent level is comparable to everybody else over a span of 4 weeks. If your talent level is better than everybody else, then okay, we can not be great and still win. But last year's team that we had to be really, really good to win because the competition was always stiff. And that's the way it is this year. So I could see it taking a toll on teams. I think it's going to be a fine line to walk where you don't put so much emphasis on today because you know there's a bigger tomorrow. And be honest with you, we've never gone through that here because for us to win the league, we've always had to beat one team. Now you got to beat 5. So it's totally different approach in my opinion. And maybe it's 6, but it's totally different in the approach in my opinion than it was in years past. Not to put too much emphasis on something presently that could take away from possibly later.
Has there been any added toll taken by being the defending champs? We haven't seen that.
NCAA?
Yeah.
No.
You haven't felt that
I don't
at all,
feel
right?
that.
Yeah.
I don't feel that. I don't feel that.
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks, Coach.